Alright guys, the day has finally come. I'm gonna color match parts of this grill that I got from 4runner Customs, and I know the poll that I did, most of you guys voted to leave it black like this, and that's fine. I left it black for a little while, but it's my rig, and I want to at least color match the outside edge to be the same shadow gray as the truck. If you're upset about that, feel free to head over to 4runner Customs. Don't forget to use code GEARHEAD for 10% off. Get your own grill and leave it black on your 4runner all you want. But anyways, I'm going to color match this. For starters, I'm going to have to wash it up a little bit because the 4runner is pretty salty. And we got to get this super clean if we're going to be doing any paint work. So I'm going to wipe it down real quick with a rinseless wash. And then I'll go ahead with some panel wipe and make sure that any oils or greases or anything like that are off the plastic before we do any of our paint work. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the Toyota logo and also these Raptor lights out, just so that's less to worry about taping up and stuff. But are the Raptor lights going to go back in? I don't know. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? All right, so real quick, I just went through and wiped this thing down with, this is just a spray bottle of Optimum No Rinse. It's just a rinseless wash. And then I would have done this anyways, but especially this might leave like some gloss enhancers and stuff behind. So then I followed up with, this is G-Technic Panel Wipe. This is like a paint prep product. Pulled the emblem out and the Raptor lights are out now. So now next up, I'm gonna go ahead and tape this off. So this is gonna take a little bit of time because I have to follow along this line, but then in here, I need to tape all of this off pretty precisely if I want it to have like a good cutoff line. So that's gonna take some time. And I was just sitting here debating whether I was going to paint this bottom part of the frame or not. At first I was thinking it might make sense to just have shadow gray along the outer top part, but I kept thinking back to the OEM grill, and the OEM grill, this is painted as well. So I want to kind of mimic that. The goal is to have like the honeycomb pattern and then this black bar across the center stay black. So I want the outer frame to be color matched essentially. Well, that was a whole lot more tedious than I thought it was going to be. And keep in mind, guys, I'm not an auto body guy. So I'm no stranger to sanding and polishing paint, but in terms of actually laying paint down, that's pretty new to me. I don't have a whole lot of experience with this, so I'm kind of learning as I go. So I got all the supplies for this project from Doug at D&W Auto Body Supplies, and he gave me some good advice about how to handle this as well. I told him that I'm color matching a grill. It's a small piece, so I'm not worried about like blending panels or anything like that. And he agrees that I could probably just rattle can it and this will be fine. For starters, he said, I'm gonna need this adhesion promoter. It's just bare black ABS plastic. And so he said, it's a good idea to just spray it down with this first. And then we're gonna follow up with some primer. And this is the primer that he sold me. Then he mixed me up a custom rattle can of, essentially this is like touch-up paint, but this is 1F4 paint code from Toyota, which is shadow gray for the 4runner. So he mixed this up for me, put it in a spray can, and then he said that he could add the clear into the can if I wanted him to, but he said when it's such a high metallic color, which shadow gray definitely is, he seemed to think that it's better to lay it down separately. And so he gave me this 1K clear to go with it as well. So these 4 products, this is what we're using to color match this grill. Now, before we start laying any paint down though, he also mentioned that I should use one of those maroon colored scuff pads just to scuff up all the plastic, just to rough it up a little bit for everything to adhere to really well. And he said that they're basically an equivalent to 400 grit sandpaper. And since I don't have one of those scuff pads with me, but I did happen to find some 400 grit sandpaper here, I'm just going to use this, and we're just going to scuff it up a little bit, and then we'll jump to the adhesion promoter. It's not super consistent, but the goal here is I'm not sanding, I'm just trying to scuff it up to help with adhesion, so I think this is okay. I wiped it down again with panel wipe one more time just because I had my dirty nose pickers all over it. So the next step is going to be to lay down a coat of adhesion promoter, and then we'll get to priming after that. All right, so I got 3 coats of the base coat on now. And so far, I think the color match is gonna be good. I was a little bit worried about it. It was coming out kind of brownish, but as it dries, it gets more like the factory color. And I'm sure putting clear on it is gonna help too. So overall, I'd say I'm pretty pleased with how it's coming out. I think it looks fairly clean, fairly consistent. I do have a little bit of spatter in a couple spots, but I think that's inevitable when you're using spray cans. I tried to minimize as much as I could, but it's just kind of the nature of the beast, I think. Or maybe I just suck at doing this. But anyways, I think we're good. I'm getting a little bit paranoid about my tape job because, man, all it takes is for one little opening, and I'm going to have a big shadow gray spot in the center of a black bar. Fingers, toes, and anything else you got on your body crossed, we're going to be okay. But anyways, time to throw down some clear. All right, guys, it's end result time. And so far, I think we're doing okay. It's, I mean, for a rattle can job, it's okay. It does, to me, look like a rattle can job, though. And, again, the paint match, the quality of the paint looks pretty good. Like, the metallic flake in it looks exactly like the truck. So I think the paint is mixed properly, and it's definitely a high-quality paint. I think my main complaint right now is the texture, and you can see it's got a lot of orange peel in it. Let's grab a scan grip here. So if you get right in there, you can see the metal flake looks just like the paint on the 4runner, so that looks awesome. But this should be a crisp circle. The light beam in the paint should be a crisp circle, and you can see just the amount of orange peel that's in it. Let's take this off and see what we got. All right, guys, good news, good news. We don't have any shadow gray anywhere that is not intended. So I guess I did a decent job of taping it up. I don't know why I got so paranoid about just finding a big mark across the black here, and then I'm screwed. I gotta just paint the whole thing, but it looks good. We got a good cutoff. Again, if any expert is gonna be able to look at this and tell that this is like not what I do for a living in terms of my tape lines, but I got in here pretty tight, and I think it looks good. Especially once it's mounted to the vehicle, I think any, like, you know, inconsistencies or just little errors here and there, they're not going to be noticeable. You're not going to get up close with your face right on the grill of the truck unless you cut me off. All right, so I decided 2 things. Number 1, I think I am going to sand this grill down. Come this far, why not go for the gold, right? So I'm going to do a bit of a scuff and buff on it. And also I decided that I want to wash the 4runner up just for the grand reveal. I want to see it nice and clean. So what I'm going to do is just go out here. I'm just going to hook the pressure washer up and give it a quick rinse. And then I'm going to pull it into the garage here and do a quick rinseless wash in here where it's nice and warm because it's pretty nasty outside today. Little update for you, and things are starting to get a little sketchy now, to be honest. So my suspicions, unfortunately, are true. I did not put enough clear coat on here, and so I can tell that I'm risking burning through as I'm sanding and polishing. So the problem is, if I mount this on the truck, look at the texture on the top compared to the hood. So that looks like crap. I got to do something about it. I can't leave it like that, but I know that if I sand all of that texture out, I'm gonna run out of clear coat, and it's just gonna be faded looking with no shiny clear on it. So this is where the dramatic part comes in. You need to remove some of the texture, but not all of it. So if I remove too much, I'm going back to not quite square one, but I'm retaping everything and reshooting clear again. I got no time for that. So the goal is to improve it and not to remove the texture. I want to knock a bunch of that down so at least I have proper reflections, but I have to be very careful not to be too greedy here or I am back to painting again. So I've been experimenting across here because that's such a kind of a low risk spot to be working on. I've done my kind of minor texture removal, and then so I've sanded with 1000, 2000, 3000, and then compounded the sanding marks out of this little section right here. So take a look at the texture up here. I haven't done this yet, and hopefully you can see the reflection of the light, how textured it is, right? So you can see, it looks like an orange peel. That's why they call it orange peel. And if we come down here, it should, I'm not sure if it does on camera, but it should look much more crystal clear. The reflection should be like a sharp circle instead of texture everywhere. So I didn't burn through here. So I'm gonna hopefully duplicate what I did here across the top on that crucial part that definitely needs to be improved, but I don't wanna run out of clear coat, so. Okay, so I just finished up with 1000 grit, and this is what's doing the work. Like, this is what's actually taking down the texture. And the other, following the 2000 and 3000, that's just stepping it back in order to get rid of these sanding marks that I just put in here to flatten the surface. So if you look closely, you'll see that there's still texture in this, and I'm leaving that on purpose because I know I have to give myself a little bit of room still because I do have 2 more steps of sanding, and then also I got to compound those sanding marks out. So I'm stopping early on purpose in hopes that I'm going to have enough clear coat to be able to finish the entire process. So I'm being very conservative here. But if you look up close, you'll be able to see the sanding pattern I have in this. I'm also staying off of these edges because I know they're going to be extra thin. So I'm not going anywhere near this up here. I'm not going anywhere near this. I'm just trying to flatten out these big wide surfaces because that's really what catches your eye when the grill is on the truck. Alright guys, sorry I didn't have the camera rolling for the 2000 grit pass, but I did 2000 and 3000 grit at the end here. So now I'm going to try and buff these sanding marks out and hope that I have enough clear coat left. Okay, so I was able to reduce the texture quite a bit without burning through the clear coat, luckily. So I think I'm going to quit while I'm ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and mount this thing on the truck now. And I'll take another look at it once it's on there and see if there's anything else that's really jumping out at me. But aside from that, I'll pull it back out in the daylight and we'll take a look at how the new painted grill looks on the front end. Since I know I'm going to be getting a whole lot of questions about what I'm using to finish down the paint here. I'm just gonna give you a quick rundown here. So in terms of sandpaper, 1000 grit, 2000 grit, 3000 grit, Trizac. These are my sanding blocks. These are from KXK Dynamics. And so there's two different kinds of sanding blocks here. These ones are a little bit more cushy, right? So these are not for texture removal. This is for if you're wanting to wet sand a bigger scratch in OEM paint or something. And then these guys are much harder. You can't squeeze these. These are for texture removal. So I'm using these harder blocks in this case, which I don't normally use, because I actually am getting rid of orange peel for once. Then once I've got the sanding marks that I need to polish out, I'm switching to M100 and a microfiber buffing pad here. This is just a little 1-inch guy. And then to refine it, I'll switch to a foam polishing pad, M205. And this is my Rupa's Hybrid Nano, little battery powered polisher for 1-inch pads. Lots of fun, a little bit pricey. Now you'll notice I don't have any protection products on here. No wax, no sealant, no ceramic coating. And that's because you gotta let this breathe for a little bit. You don't wanna cover this up with a wax or a sealant or especially a ceramic coating, because this paint needs to breathe. The gases need to be able to come out to the surface. And if they're trapped in there with a wax or sealant, that's how you end up with those little pinholes. And it's called solvent pop. Like basically the solvents and the gases are gonna find a way out one way or another. And if they are trapped, they come out forcibly. So I'll be leaving this bare for about a month before I protect it with anything. And at that point, I think I might put something on this black plastic too, like a trim restorer product, but not because it needs to be restored. Obviously it's brand new, but just it gives it a little bit more of a sheen, and it'll protect it better then as well. All right, here are the final results. So let's take a look at the factory paint on the hood here, and then compare to my paint on the grill. And first of all, the color match is great. You can see from here to up here, it's dead on. So he did a great job of mixing this color for me. We got it right. Of course, the texture is still there. It's much better than when I first sprayed it though, so I'm okay with that. So I'm gonna pull it outside into the daylight to show a little bit better, and hopefully the sun will catch it a little bit more. So it's time for the $1,000,000 question. Would I recommend that you paint your own grill, like if you want to color match a grill or any other body panel? I have to say I got a pretty decent result. I'm happy with it. And keep in mind that I have a pretty critical eye when it comes to paint finishes. There's always a chance that I notice things that maybe most people wouldn't. And so I'm fairly pleased with this. So does that mean that I would do it all over again and do it myself? In this case, no. Believe it or not. Here's the thing. The primary reason for me making the decision to do it myself was for content. I wanted to tell the story of going through and teaching myself how to paint a body panel. If I wasn't doing this to make a video, I would have just dropped it off at the body shop. The main thing is by the time you add up the cost of adhesion promoter and primer, base coat, clear coat, sandpaper, pads, polishes, all the stuff that you need in order to do the job properly, just in the paint materials alone, I was at about $100. And honestly, I think if I were to take this grill to my paint guy that did a lot of the work on the Tacoma for me, I can't imagine he would charge me more than $100, maybe even less than $100. And this took quite a bit of time to do it the proper way. And most importantly, no matter how good of a result I got, it's for sure not as good as a professional. There's a reason why auto body work is a skilled trade that you have to go to school for and get a bunch of experience. I got a lot of respect for body guys, and if I wasn't making a video, I think I would probably just drop this off at a body shop again. Now, for those of you that really appreciate that rewarding feeling of seeing that you've done something yourself and being proud of it, hey man, go ahead and paint it yourself. I mean, I feel great about this. This is definitely rewarding. It's very satisfying to see the finished product. So if that's important to you and you really enjoy that kind of stuff, then I'm all for DIY paint work like this. And I think I've proven that it can be done. You can get a pretty decent result by color matching just with spray paint. I got no air gun here. Certainly not a professional body shop situation. And I think it came out pretty decent. So for small panels like a grill or something like this, I think you're okay. Would I say blend in a fender or a door or something like that? Absolutely not. Not even close. But for small pieces like this, if you were going to color match like your door handles or your mirrors or something like that, I think it can be done. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed watching me as I stumbled my way through teaching myself how to basically paint stuff. And hopefully you found it helpful. If you did, go ahead, give the video a like, because we're friends and that's what you do for your homies. Anyways, I will catch you guys on the next one. See ya.